we've discovered this thing that can actually reshape our energy mix. But if you do this, you're going to become self-sufficient. You're going to be able to now supply more into the world than what you are using. So you'll make more money, you'll pay off your debts, and you'll start to become a financially free people and a society. It's a problem for those that want to keep us enslaved. The energy thing is not just the energy thing around Eskom, guys. There's a lot more where this thing goes, and you have to take a macro view.
Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Conversation Capital. Hanging out with my favorite, Bonga. How are you doing?
I'm good, girl. How are you?
I am awesome. Thank you. How's Asante?
Asante is good.
Our daughter. Is she good?
The show's daughter.
The show's daughter.
Daughters,
Wait, thinking we've got two daughters here at the Conversation Capital. As always, thank you so much for the love. We're seeing on social media. Continue to comment, like, share, subscribe. Today we're chatting all things to do with that uncle that visits all of us. Whether you like it or not, you will be visited. If you're a South African citizen and you live in this country, you will be visited by Uncle Load Shedding.
Yep.
And the inconveniences that can be, or that can come from that is just, the list is endless of the different effects that it has. And so I've brought in a guest, somebody that I've always appreciated his content on social media. We're definitely going to share the links down. It is Zimasa Vabaza.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Right.
Oh, thank God. You know what it is? On social media, he's Mustafa.
Yes.
Next thing he walks in, he's like, Zimasa Vabaza. I'm like, who's that? Like, I was expecting Mustafa.
I think it's a branding thing. You go over, you grow with something, and then you realize that that's maybe just a handle on social media.
Yes.
But then it takes a life of its own, and people in the street will be like, "Hey, Mustafa," I'm like, "Hey, what's up?"
What's
So
up?
it is. So yeah.
Absolutely love your content. And so immediately
Thank
when we were
you.
like, how do we, talk about analyzing? And I think one of the things that definitely triggered, there were two things, and I wrote it when I was saying, please come into the show. The first one was, I spoke about in the last episode, a pay cut my friend received due to, because she's a lawyer, but she works for a firm that produces, so production is down during load shedding hours. Even with all the inverters and generators, it's not enough to do the load of work that they need to do during load shedding hours. So then everybody got a pay cut. And then the second thing was, I read an article. That's when I said we're missing how vast these effects are. But basically, the effect it's having on Mauritius, our load shedding, is having on the Mauritian economy.
Yes.
Right? And that's what made me say, man, this thing is actually bigger than we think it is.
Yes.
And so that's when I was like, actually, let's bring in Mustafa and let's have a chat about load shedding.
So I want to actually reframe maybe the conversation that we're going to get into. The conversation we really should get into is the economics of energy, right? It's the economics of energy in South Africa. And in order for us to understand the economics of energy in South Africa, I have to place things into context. And there's two stories I want to quickly tell you so that we set the base so that people understand what we're talking about. Okay. So the first story is around the Victoria Falls Power Company, right? Which in itself was like I'd say the bigger brother or the child or the dad to what we call Eskom, the Electricity Supply Commission. Now, this is around, why did this company exist? There were two. There was also, I think, the Rand Power Supply Company. There were two of them. This is around the turn of the 20th century, 1900, 1906, around about there. The very existence of this company, right, of these two companies, the Rand Power Supply Company and the Victoria Falls Power Company, were to supply power to industries that were growing at the time and to supply the industrialization of South Africa, or Southern Africa at the time, right?
Victoria Falls, I'm assuming, was in Zim.
It was obviously Zambia, Muswatunya, there.
Okay,
Vic Falls, I guess, colloquially. Yeah. But it's important to understand why these exist, right? So remember the people that were there at those times, right? It was the Rand Lords. Now, the Rand Lords are the group of people who owned mines at the time. They were the industrialists of the time. So they needed to power their operations. And from Southern Africa, all the way up to Zambia, they needed to power the operations. They had the Vic Falls, which was able to also in itself create power for them, right? Okay, so that's there. Then there's the Rand, right? The Rand, where we find the gold and everything. So there's a reason as to why we need more power. So this is where the story of Eskom starts. There's a need for power, but for industrial purposes, right? And the spillover is going to go into suburbs, etc., etc. So when you understand why there was a need to start having this type of power in South Africa. It was for industrialization. And it still continues till this day, right? Then you've got the Rand Company. Now, the Rand Power Company and the Victoria Falls Company, around 1948, something happened around 1948, if you know your history. But around 1948, something happens, right, in South Africa, which everybody knows, right? Apartheid, right? It starts. These two companies, right, are then taken over by the state. They are, what does the EFF always say? They are expropriated. But there was compensation, 15 million pounds of compensation. A lot of money. But the state basically said, you have no choice but to sell to us. Right? So you must sell this entity, right, which supplies power, because we want to make sure that the power supply is continuing,
Yes.
right, and is sustained for what we need to do.
At which point is this happening in history?
This is 1948.
Okay.
This is 1948,
Okay.
right?
So Asibo Mandela. I'm just trying to understand.
No,
that.
I'm going to bring it there.
Okay.
Now, from this point, I want to explain another story. So now you know why and how Eskom, the Electricity Supply Commission, got to be, right? There was a need that the new government in 1948 wanted to do. This was part of a bigger plan, but this is for another story. That was part of a bigger plan. Then from here, I want to explain a very simple story. If we own a car as a family, right? And this car, its job was to take mom to work, and dad barely used it because maybe they were on a farm. And suddenly, the kids grow up, and now it must take the kids to school, mom to work, and then dad changes jobs. Now the same car must take dad to work, mom to work, kids to school, kids to sport. But then things get faster as the years get on, because everybody's got more needs, deeper needs for this car.
Now it's not just
this
school.
car is now running at 200 kilometers per hour. We don't have an opportunity to stop this car
Yes.
and fix it. We don't have time to fix the gearbox. We don't have time to check on the engine. We are just putting oil and petrol, and we're saying, go, car, go. Nothing lasts forever. So by the time that the true owners of the car got the car in 94, they were like, well, Bamba your car, you can drive it now. But now this car must supply the neighborhood, not that one family or those two houses. So now we find ourselves in a position with a very old
I
car
love what you're saying.
in 94 that started in 1948. So if we're going to speak about the provisions of monies sent to the Electricity Supply Commission, or Eskom, and what was done prior to that, when it serviced only this one family and not the neighborhood, but it was a car that was said, it's everyone's car, guys. We always knew that it was everyone's car, but this car only supplied. It only also had to supply certain industries and was important. And even till this day, those industries are in themselves subsidized. They have never really paid the true cost of electricity.
This is interesting.
So when now that you've set the base for understanding the economics of energy in the country, you then start to say to yourself, okay, when we got this car in 94, what was the condition of the car? Did we have a job to then say, hey, this car, it needs to go in for service? Did we have money to overhaul this car and put in a new engine? Did we then say we need to buy new cars that maybe can supplement the whole neighborhood? These were the conversations, but at the same time, people don't have food. They don't have housing. So you have to understand that what was the most important thing at the time. Now, it's not an excuse for having X amount of years, right? 29 years. And not making provision for that. I mean, we do have, and we've made provision. When we did Kusile and Medupi as our power stations in South Africa, we budgeted, I must do a precursor before I say this. There is no government in the world that is a good and proper allocator of capital. I say that freely. When a project starts and it has to do anything with the public sector, it will never be finished on time. It will never stay on budget. This is very important.
China building hospitals in 10 days.
This is very important for people. Even the bureaucracy, right, of the Politburo in China is not as efficient and effective relative to the system and state and control that they have. There is still corruption. There is still overrunning budgets, right? Yes, what they reflect to the world because they control the media is efficient and effective work. But for many years, what were Chinese known for? Hong Kong. So can we have that conversation? You understand? We must understand that. So now we find ourselves in a position, right, where we've got to look at what was done over that time. So Kusile and Medupi, right, were meant to increase our capacity as South Africa. This is going to shock you, right, if you don't know this story. What we budgeted for Kusile and Medupi were around 74 billion rand and 75 billion rand at the time. I'm not sure which one was allocated, but it's basically 75 billion. At the last time of check on what was spent on Kusile and Medupi, it was 150 billion each. It had doubled from when we signed off all those years ago. We had now doubled that, right? So we've spent 300 billion on these things. What will shock you even more, right? I'm not sure which one it is. There's a design flaw. There's a design flaw in a furnace. I don't know if people know this. One of the furnaces, I think it's Kusile, Unit 4 or Unit 5, I can be corrected on this. It fell on the other two.
So high sebetsi after 150.
After 150 billion.
High sebetsi.
Now the question that must be asked is who built that? Who were the engineers that built that? But let's pull it back, right, and say, how does it affect normal people? Your friend having a productivity issue that she is not in control of, and the business having a productivity issue that the business cannot control is tough, right? And it becomes even more real on how it affects the economy. But I have a flip side of this, that I believe that our problems can easily be solved, right? But I don't think that there is a need to quickly solve the problems. Now, we start getting into the realm of conspiracy, etc. But you must understand the economic makeup of energy in South Africa and our mix. Our mix is very standard, right? It's coal and then like other stuff. Our energy mix is very skewed towards coal. But we have hundreds of years of coal under the ground. So you must understand that we were and are an economy that industrialized off the base of coal.
Yes.
We never had to change our energy mix. We never had to, right? This is very important for us to understand as a people. So we now find ourselves in a position where we've signed climate accords and things that are forcing us to change our energy mix relative to the rest of the world.
Yes.
We are not one of the biggest polluters on the planet. This is important for us to note. We are not. Coal is seen as the enemy, but we are coal rich. This is an attack on the south, on the hemisphere, the southern hemisphere. We are coal rich, right? But again, this we must take into a concept of understanding that is macro. Yes, load shedding is here. Why does it exist? I've given you two stories. The Eskom was not necessarily made to service everybody.
Yes.
And we were given a car that was running at 200 Ks for X amount of years.
Already.
And then
now it had
there
to
was
run.
100%. And it had to
Serving
continue.
more people.
It had to continue at that pace, right?
Or even faster now,
Even
because
faster
now we
because-
were servicing
right?
black communities
And
as well. Yeah.
Again, remember, the issue with Eskom, right? There's primarily two issues with Eskom. You have to understand how the business is made up, right? There's generation, which is let's create the thing. There's transmission, let's take it from one point to the other. And then there's distribution, which is in municipal demarcations.
Yes.
Now let's put it into homes, etc., into substations. So these three things are quite key. There's a lot of debate around it, but generally generation is kaput, right? Because of how much demand we have for the grid, etc., relative to what we have, and breakdowns. South Africa doesn't have an issue with generating enough. We've made capacity for enough. We just can't generate to that point, right? Because we've got planned breakdowns. Remember, our car is really old.
Yes.
Then the other issue is distribution, right? South Africans, there was something that I'd call myself a capitalist. And I think I'm unapologetic about that because nobody's ever given me a system that works better than capitalism, unfortunately.
Okay.
As a capitalist, I look at it and I say, I don't think it made sense. I know it made sense when they did it, where they said we must provide electricity for everybody. That's fine, right? We must provide housing for everybody. Okay, sure, there was a backlog. But there should have been a sunset on that. There should have been a sunset that everybody knows.
What do you mean? As in, like, we're providing housing for everyone and the first 100?
The first generation of people. You've got now, right?
Okay.
30-year-olds that expect a house.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Expectant of a house. I
Okay.
want people to understand there are people who are expecting a house.
Okay, I actually do
So I'm
hear
30
what you're
years
saying.
old.
Yeah.
I should get an RDP house because nobody ever said there was a sunset on what we could give you that was free. Thus, this created a mindset within South Africans that says that I should be getting this for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thus, you have the problem of townships like Soweto not wanting, not that they can't afford, not wanting to pay for electricity. So now you've created it was a solution to a problem that you had.
At the time, yeah.
But now it has become a problem. And that has permeated through all facets of South African society. People don't want to pay for TV licenses. People don't want to pay for other stuff. And now you start to find yourself in a position where if they suggest that, we should do a VAT for the SABC, people say, no, you are taxing us too much. But there's obviously a deficit that was created somewhere, somehow, right? And that's where we sit. So when we look at the energy economy, that's what we're looking at. It is a big monster. Now,
Multifaceted
the
monster, yeah.
solution already exists.
Do you see how he's asking himself the questions? But I love it. It's made my job so easy. Please continue.
No, but the solution exists, right? The solution is oil and gas.
Okay.
South Africa has Southern Africa. There's a research paper written by, I think, one of the firms, consulting firms. There's basically, they haven't told us yet. They've kind of hinted at it. There are oil deposits from all the way from Angola, around the coast of South Africa, all the way to Pemba province in Mozambique. And I dare say that we're probably going into Tanzania. So there could be oil and gas around the entire Southern African, I'd say, economic zone.
Mara Enaki conspiracy.
So where
sure.
I say that no, we're certain. No,
Sure.
these discoveries have been done.
Okay.
But we now can't explore that as a country because of NGOs. The climate people are saying, no, you can't frack. No, you can't drill for oil. No, you're going to destroy the biodiversity. No, you can't do that. In the Karoo, we've got oil and gas, right? In the Karoo.
You're attacking the climate people.
No, we're 100%.
Or
They're
they're
saying,
attacking us.
no. Now, does it make sense to you as a person that we should sacrifice our industrial growth and development as a people, right? As a people, as a Southern African community, development community, we should sacrifice ourselves and our development because the global north and the west are saying to us, no, we have like an earth problem. We have an earth problem and you guys can't burn the coal you burn.
Yes.
You guys can't.
I hear what you're saying. And
drill.
You started off by saying that we're actually not the ones with the
Highest pollution
We're
rate.
not the problem,
Yes.
guys.
We're not.
Now, why would the West give us $8 billion? It's the fastest loan I've ever seen the West like put together. They gave us $8 billion. Why? Because we've already found the new gold. It's oil and gas for us. That's how we move our economy, right? But now you have to get us into debt, into energy debt. We're giving you. We've discovered this thing that can actually reshape our energy mix. But if you do this, you're going to become self-sufficient. You're going to be able to now supply more into the world than what you are using. So you'll make more money, you'll pay off your debts, and you'll start to become a financially free people and a society. It's a problem for those that want to keep us enslaved. The energy thing is not just the energy thing around Eskom, guys. There's a lot more where this thing goes. And you have to take a macro view into South Africa. There's never been a better time to invest in South Africa than now.
Hey, Mustafa's saying
It's
some
crazy
other
because-
stuff I've never heard, but I like it.
Because
I
also-
know they are oppressing us. I just don't know how they're doing it.
Earlier, I was like, I'm ready to leave this country.
Yes, we were talking about it.
Right?
I'm
we were
going
off
to
air. We were
Australia.
like, this is crazy. Where our country's headed is crazy. But here you're saying it's one of the. This is a fertile ground
We
for
are.
investment.
Remember, what a lot of people don't know about the country is what actually drives the country, and not just South Africa. I want us to start looking at SADC, This is very important for us to understand. We can't see ourselves alone. We must see ourselves within the context of SADC. There are 250 million people in the SADC region. There are dams like the Inga Dam in the DRC that if they sorted out just that dam, electricity would not be a problem for all of us. There is a Renaissance Dam that is in Ethiopia that is the cause of fighting in the Tigray region right now, purely because the British...
But that's not SADC. Those two countries you just made, are they SADC?
Yes, no, that's not SADC.
Okay,
but
okay.
I'm trying to show you the connections.
Okay.
There's a war being fought in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. You would think that war is tribal, is ethnic, is whatnot. No, the war exists because when the British were in Cairo, they signed off the water rights of the Ethiopian region to the Egyptians because they were downstream. And if you understand just basic geography, it rains at the top of the mountain, the water flows down. So the Ethiopian people never had rights to their water. I want you to understand this. But what does water allow for the Ethiopian people to do? Hydroelectricity. What does water allow for the people in the DR to do? It is hydroelectricity. But it is at a scale that would liberate the people from an energy crisis. I'm talking absolute liberation.
And the dependence of Western support.
100%.
I hear that.
Right? Imagine if we stopped, if we did not have to worry about how we industrialize from an energy perspective. Building factories in the SADC region, in the Ethiopian region, with 100 mil plus people, is almost going to be next to nothing. The level of impact that energy has on a people in this day and age that we live in is, it cannot be understated. It is a massive thing. Now, when you limit a people energy-wise, you limit their industrialization options. So it's not just about
going
Eskom.
green.
Yes.
I hear you.
100%. And nobody has come to me and said to me, no, I can prove to you. I can prove to you that what exists, if you fracked, you would cause more damage than the damage being caused by not being able to industrialize and employ our people. No one has come to me and showed me that data. Because even in business, it is not about investing, it is about investing.
I get if we don't go green, it's about Armageddon.
No.
I said what I said.
It is what the media, it is what the Western media is saying to you. Right? It's what they're saying to you. They want you to feel threatened. Right? They say, no, it is actually the global south that is going to be the most hit. But in Germany, they were having floods, and there were clips of people saying, this shouldn't happen to German people. We should, it's going, but who industrialized first? Who industrialized? Should we now not industrialize? Should we now not? Is that what you're saying to us? Renewable energies are awesome. Yes, they can be great for taking those people who are periodic users of energy off the grid. When do I need the power? When do I not need the power? But our power stations are not designed to be switched on and off. We don't have the capacity, right? They were not built with the capacity. That car that we got all those years ago doesn't have the capacity for people to feed into it. So we would have to invest into it.
Yes.
Right? We would have to invest to allow our grid to be able to take in
energy,
right? Independent power producer energy. Now, it's not that it's impossible. It's just that where do we invest our money? It's not a hey, we can invest or we're not investing. It's where if we put it here, we have to take it from somewhere. So where is that somewhere that we should be taking this money to do this thing? Why should we get off coal? So that is the understanding of the energy economy in South Africa.
Sure. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much. I was expecting him to say doom and gloom. This is causing the worst damage.
It's too easy, Ursa, to do that. It's too easy.
But you're looking at root causes. You're looking
I'm an entrepreneur. Where there is chaos, there is opportunity. Right? There is opportunity to reshape how we have a relationship, how people in South Africa have a relationship with energy. And because we have never had to build really big, I would say, projects around energy, and we really centered us, if the world wants to turn, it can turn. But should we then change our competitive advantage? Should we then say negate our competitive advantage and say, There are so many. We have a coal belt. America is trying to save its coal belt. We're saying, no, but we should take $8 billion, right? We should take it and we should cripple our coal belt. That's what we're saying. That's what politicians would want us to, global politicians. We had Janet Yellen here from the US. I don't remember a time where somebody of that nature just arrived. The same thing happened. Emmanuel Macron, French president, right? With all the problems he has back home. He arrived here. Just in J, because Total wants the rides. Shell wants the rides. They have a problem in Cabo Delgado in Mozambique. We've had to send our troops, right? Our special forces with other nations within the SADC region to try and quell this thing. Imagine, this thing just popped up out of nowhere. There's an insurgency in the north of Mozambique. From where, my brother? From where? Who is funding this thing? These people supposedly, right? Supposedly have enough resources to hold off the special forces of like 4 countries. Rwanda, South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe. They have, where did they get this? When were they training?
And at some point they were sitting at second poorest country in the world, I remember.
You must ask yourself these questions. You must ask yourself, because if you don't, the world is not as cut and dry as what we think it is. It is 50 shades of grey.
So jwale or bula party or
No, nothing.
Don't laugh.
I'm a solutions-based person who wants to see South Africa thrive. I'm a patriot before I subscribe to any political party. I am somebody who sees the opportunity in all situations, right?
But okay, generally speaking, what's the way forward then? What are you saying? What are we supposed to be doing?
So I think we, in the words of the Afrikaners, I think fastbait. I think we hold tight. I think that we are a 350 to 400 billion dollar GDP country. We're not going down. This is very important. Don't let them tell you that we're going to go. We're too important to go down. We're too big to fail as a country. We are too big to fail. Don't let them lie to you.
Solely on the amount of natural resources that we have. Is that what you're saying?
And the economic output of the country and the potential that we have to continue outputting products and services. We are not going down. Don't let the doomsday, the naysayers, don't let them win the conversation. And there's a very interesting thing that you must understand about where we are as a country right now. We as the millennials are about to inherit this country. Because we're about to inherit this country, we are the ones who should be most involved in what happens now. Because we're about to get another car given to us that was not serviced, that has been running at 200 kilometers per hour, that somebody misappropriated funds for the tires that this car needs to use, right? But it was flashy on the outside. We will inherit this economy within the next 10 years as millennials. It will completely be ours. To run away from South Africa now is to run away from the opportunity of your homeland. We can't be those people. We are not a people that will survive in the diaspora. This is all we have. The Zimbabwean problems are our problems. The Zimbabwean problems are our problems. The Zimbabwean problems are our problems.
3 times.
It's very important for you to understand that if we abandon this country as those that have been privileged enough to get the best education, to be able to be open-minded and to get the methodology of thinking critically about what is going on, if we abandon this country, it will go to the dogs. But I say this now, we talk about foreign direct investment, but what we should be talking about is internal direct investment.
Sure.
There are trillions of rands sitting in trust funds right across South Africa that are not being invested into our country. Who holds those funds and why are they not investing in South Africa to get out of the quagmire that we find ourselves in? Ask yourself that question.
Stellenbosch mafia, or no names.
I'm talking about the ruling class. No, we can freely say this. The ruling class. The South African ruling class is not unified in a single agenda. If I had to tell you, there were 13 black families, right? I mean, not black families, sorry. There were 13 families in America at the turn of the 20th century that ran things. From the Vanderbilts to the Astor family, the John Jacob Esters, to the Waltons,
Yeah.
to the guys that started all these companies, right? Standard Oil and all of these guys. They had a common vision. They were the ruling class. The ruling class is above the political class. It doesn't matter what the political class is and the makeup of it is. We rule, we have a common vision. We want to make South Africa, or at that time it was America, we want to make it globally competitive. So how do we do that? We limit the competition amongst each other, and we combine resources to exploit the competitive advantages that we have as a ruling class to win. What do I mean by this in the South African context? It's a simple thing. We need to have a ruling class across the races, from the Jewish people to the Afrikaner people to the black people to the Indian people to the Chinese people and the colored people, etc., who must come together and say, what is the common goal and vision of South Africa, regardless of how the people vote. And this
Southern
is,
Africa,
this
yeah.
is this is very contentious. It's a very contentious way of looking at it. But we will not be able to compete globally if we do not have people, right, that have one. So in other words, if we're going to fight over the contracts at Eskom as the ruling class and say, because it's a money spinner, right? If we're going to fight over it, then nothing gets done at Eskom.
Yes.
But if we're going to segment and say, yes, Smangmang, Libo Mangmang, you guys, you are the power guys. We are the retail guys. Here are the tech guys. Here are the guys that do engineering in built environment. Here are the guys that do this thing. We've all agreed. There's a mission for South Africa. You then permeate that down through the political class and to us, the professional class and the other classes, to say South Africa has a vision. Our vision is 2035, let's say, or 2040. Yes. Nobody changes the vision. Yes. There's not a single government department or provincial thing that's going to change it. We all have a vision. What is this vision? How do we all get behind it? And then we push for that. And we have milestones and KPAs and KPIs that we use on our ministers, on our executive branch, on our parliamentarians, on our civil servants. Everybody must get behind one plan,
yes,
right? And that is how we're going to move forward. But it starts at the top, not at the bottom. We will break stones, will burn councillors' houses because there's no plan. There's no unified plan. People don't know what the plan is.
I hear what you're saying.
So give us a plan, right? Give us a plan.
And you're speaking, once again, in the context of South Africa. You keep switching between South Africa, Southern Africa. I'm just trying to figure out whether you're giving us a pan-Africanist approach to this, or you're speaking specifically to us.
I think I'm worried about our corner. Our corner is very important. I can't speak for the ECOWAS region. I can't speak for them. I can't speak for everybody else on the continent. I can only speak for the Southern African right now, because we have real problems, but we also have real opportunities, right? But we're so fixated on the problems that exist in South Africa, in Southern Africa, that we're not seeing the opportunities that lie right in front of us, right? That we should be converting on. And we are the generation. We, the millennials. It's going to be up to us. We must not allow what our parents did, which was to allow our grandparents to run the country for way long. Our parents are still not in power. Do you understand how crazy that is? 50-year-olds are still not in power. 60-year-olds are still in power. How is that possible? We cannot, our parents mustn't even get a chance. We must go in first. I'm serious.
Yes, I hear you.
Right? DDGs should not be anywhere over 45. Where do you find the energy as an old person? We want solutions. But people are telling us about solutions that are going to take 20 years. You won't even be here.
Sure.
You won't even be here. Telling us about Vision 2030, you are not going to be here. We will be the ones left with this car that has not been serviced, that has major breakdowns, and we have to drive it to work every day. But sinezkoloto zakho that you made, you left us a bill and not a will.
Guys, that's a closing note. That's a closing note.
You left us a bill.
Not a will. Sure.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you speak, man. And you speak with so much enthusiasm about the trajectory of our country.
Yes.
And I'm saying based on what? Because I look at, currently it's our politicians, the government, etc.,
Sure.
right? And I'm not seeing currently how young people are able to effectively penetrate these spaces, right?
True.
And the young people that are able to penetrate these places just go on with the corruption, unfortunately, right? So what is your optimism based on?
My optimism is based on the fact that I'm a well-equipped decently well-traveled South African millennial who understands that there are no opportunities, there are not as many opportunities in the developed world that will allow for you to be, I don't know, let's call it a deca-millionaire. But it depends, right? Not everyone will get there. But real opportunities. So if one person becomes a billionaire, there's probably a lot of people around him who will also make a lot of money. Because we have the basement of, I would say, economic development that sits right under our feet. So because we have that and we're not developed, there are major problems that need to be solved in South Africa. Infrastructure. The township has not been rebuilt since the 70s, right? This is fact. If you went into low-cost property, just low-cost property, to eradicate the backroom system, there's absolutely no way you will not make 100 million over your lifetime. There's absolutely zero way. There are challenges in any business, right? But I believe that South Africans have been fixated on everything that is a problem to them for so long, and they've relied on the government for so long that they themselves see their only way out and their only opportunity through the government. But you still have businesses in this country that clock 100 billion, that clock 50 billion revenue a year, right? A year. So now you must ask yourself, who is the consumer? Who is the consumer? But if you only look at the problem, and there are people that are very much, I'd say, federal or neoliberal in their thinking, that think of self, and that's fine. Africa is not that type of place that has inculcated that into themselves over millennia. We're people because of other people, right? So if you decide that you want to leave, there's no problem in you leaving. We don't have an issue with you leaving, right? But what we will expect from you is that you don't talk smack about South Africa, a place that you had the privilege of leaving in a terrible state where you could have assisted, and you decided, I won't get involved and I will leave. And that is the difference. Other people, if they said, and this might sound very radical, if they said there is a border conflict in South Africa and we need men to go fight, I would probably go fight. Because this is a country worth fighting for. We have never tested a lot of the things and concepts that were given to us in this country from the 94, 96 constitutions that were negotiated on the hopes that things would all be rainbow and would be amazing. We must now test that constitution.
In the sense of what? Free education, free housing?
We must test that constitution.
Okay.
We must test it. In fact, we should hold referendums to say, is the constitution that is supposedly world-class serving us? No one, it's almost as you are told every day that this constitution is amazing. Is it amazing? Is it amazing? Is the South African constitution amazing? Is it? Ask yourself that. Because if you believe it is amazing, then it must clearly be serving you.
Amazing versus realistic, I think maybe that would be.
But there is no inherent realism in having this document that is amazing, but the reality on the ground is terrible. It's like having this really amazing plan, we're going to be billionaires. And then on the ground, it's like, asinayo nemali yokufaka into this thing. So why should we now live on this pedestal of having this amazing document that we believe is the best in the world, which was basically also very much cut and paste from other documents, but that's a conversation for another day. And saying to ourselves, okay, this thing is so amazing, but your life is not changing because of this amazing thing that supposedly binds all of us together. We must interrogate all of the things that were done when we were too young to respond to them. We must interrogate them as South Africans.
So you're saying what? The responsibility of this change lies on my 2000.
No, it's us. No. It's us. It's us, it's the millennials.
Okay.
We must not let this thing skip a generation.
Okay.
We must not let this
I was already negating my responsibilities.
And I wanted to,
like, my 2000, take it.
I wanted to catch you very quickly and be like, no, bring it back, my sister. You are of age. You can make changes. Why not start a petition to say, we should interrogate the Constitution of South Africa? Why not do it? Why not? Listen, now I'm asking, why not do it? I wasn't there when they wrote that document. other people co-sign that document. I'm now saying if it's a living, breathing document, well, it must live and breathe and come here and we can check if vitals zayo zihamba kanjani. How are the vitals of this document? Because this document it doesn't feel like it works for me, right? It doesn't feel like it works for me. And across the board, across industries, right? We can't make things that determines the future of South Africa. We can't make those decisions because there's a binding document that says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this document stops us from progressing as fast as what we want to, and what we plan to.
So are you starting a party or not?
No. I don't need to start a party. In fact, what people get wrong about like how to form and I'd say manage societies is that we must get the economics right as a community. Then we must get the politics right. Then we must get the judicial system, the courts, the judges, the police right.
Okay.
Then we must get the media right. Then we must get the education right.
Media.
Yes, media is the most important tool in one mitigating potential catastrophes.
Yes.
The Romans used to say, give them bread and circuses. When you can see what things are not going well in the Roman Empire, give these people bread and circuses. Give them bread and circuses so that they will forget their daily lived experience. I heard someone say, the thread of South Africa is being held together by international sporting events. Think about that.
Okay.
We're waiting for another Rugby World Cup now. We might win it so that we can say we are together. Because the last one was 2019. And now we're going, ish. Yeah, no, that thread is looking thin. South Africa's about to break. Oh, it's a World Cup year.
So you mean like what, our patriotism?
It's our bread and circus.
Yes.
It's our sporting events are South Africa's bread and circus. We run away from the problem. We, as the people on the ground, the peasants, we forget that there are real issues. We forget. But we only think that the only way to solve them is political.
That's so true, because I do not see, personally, that's why my question was around our politicians, and I don't see any hope when I look at our politicians. I don't see any hope for us when I look at our politicians.
And that's why my answer keeps being, when are you
party,
starting a party?
right?
When are you starting a party?
Yes, because
for us,
I can't look outside of the fact that because for me, my house and my vote. So it's like who I put in is who I expect to change things for me. So I hear what you're saying.
But I think also it's the narrative that's been passed down because, you know, Mandela was the savior. You know what I mean? So we've always looked at it very like a very political approach to, I mean, Mandela wasn't necessarily a beacon of economic freedom.
Well,
maybe he got us into spaces where white people used to chill by themselves.
The Mandela conversation. We'll start another party. I'll quickly say, look, Mandela was a statesman. Everybody knows that and understand that. The person who was running the government was TM. And TM ran it for quite a while. And go look at the stats. The last time South Africa had a budget surplus was around, I think, 04 to 08.
Okay.
We had more money. We had more money than what we're spending.
Doesn't this point more towards the fact that the vehicle was still better off than now? Isn't, this is my argument. Like, isn't it just that we've been running on empty systems for a longer time? I'm asking.
What is South Africa's economic plan? Right? Right?
I love that.
Right? What is our economic plan? Everybody can tell you what the problems are. What is the plan to fix it? What is the plan to fix it? Right? And then if you go back to that same time, what was our plan? We were pushing through proper programs, right?
Okay.
Whether it was RDP, whether it was GIA, whether it was ASKISA, there was a plan. I
hear what you're saying.
It might not have been, some of them might have worked. Under that same period, we had the most intra SADC trade with our partners. We opened up borders. We did a lot more for goods and services to be able to go in and out of our community, the SADC region, right? Around the same time, there was a plan. Might not have been the best plan, right? Relative to however people look at it. But when I look at the metrics that are used globally, you then start to see there was something that was going on there. Remember, the current president eats what the last president cooked.
Sure.
And that's how it works. The current president eats what the last president cooked, definitely on your first term. Then you start cooking for the next guy. That's how it works. So if there was a surplus in 08, The next guy was served food.
No, man, but like, you're constantly referring to the political solution, but you're saying that not necessarily, our solutions don't necessarily lie in the politics. Then where do they lie?
Our solutions lie in us as people taking up spaces where we need to. A society is not built on politics alone. But we feel that politics are for instance, if as a block of people, Africans, South Africans, black indigenous South Africans, said we will direct our money in a particular direction, that has nothing to do with politics.
Okay.
It is the people deciding that we are going to move our money in a particular direction. Right? We don't need a political party to tell us to do that. We can start doing that. But we don't. But we want the politics to tell us to do that. Who is the problem, the politics or us?
But isn't it that the politics provide a visionary? Guys, am I misunderstanding this? The politics provide somebody who creates the vision that you're talking about, following a plan. So isn't that the outline that we're saying? Because then who do we look at? Like, where do we get this consensus? Where do we get this?
Think about the politics of China. What are the politics of China? One party, one state. One party, one state. How does that translate to people on the ground? We are prosperous as a people because what do? We've plugged into the World Trade Organization, and we understand that even though we are communist, we operate in a capitalist world. That's what they decided. The politics of a country, of a nation, they differ, right?
Okay.
We're always compared to us being just like France, right? France is apparently the white version of South Africa because they strike Alapan. One small thing, they get up now. But that's in their nature. They've always been revolutionaries in that society. We've just found our revolution now, right? Other people would say, no, we should have had, it was a bloodless thing, blah, blah, blah. We should have had a civil war. I mean, don't be stupid.
Really?
Don't be stupid. There's no need for us to have physical. People were already dying. What people don't understand is that people were already dying in Katoras and all of these places. There was a civil war.
Okay.
Right? But what we're narrow-minded and we forget as South Africans. We quickly forget the realities and the lived experience of people. And that, because we're so quick to forget, we place ourselves in a position where we can be told what the past was, even though you lived it. You were there. You lived it. But you're allowing somebody to reframe this thing.
This reminds me of George Orwell's Animal Farm. Have you read that
Yeah.
book? Yeah, he basically speaks. So at the end, when they're like looking through the little binoculars, they're like, these pigs are starting to look like humans. You know, like where you were there, you lived the revolution, but you yourself are confused with the outcome and how it looks now. And you're not sure anymore because the narrative feels like it's changed as to what it looks like.
Because not everything that happens in South Africa is just about that particular thing. Everything is connected. Everything is connected.
Zimasa, thank you so much.
Pleasure. It's all mine.
Thank you for taking the time to impart so much knowledge. I definitely learned a lot.
And I think he's left a lot of us with
I feel like I'm going to...
a lot of learning.
Yes.
Moments that we want to go find out.
And understand more.
Yeah. I'm going to go like replay this episode and listen to it bit by bit as well. And there's just so much to chew on. And like you're saying, just so many gaps of knowledge that you realize that, I actually should find out more about that.
And that was on purpose, by the way.
Thank you.
That was on purpose that you have gaps in your understanding of the country. We've always looked at the injustice, the human injustice of what happened to South Africans during apartheid.
Yes.
We've never looked at the economic injustice. And this is a nice segue for me to plug a book that I'm writing that's only coming out
there we go.
Next year.
Put us on.
Yeah. Working title is The Country They Built.
The Country They Built.
Yes. The untold economic history of South Africa from the 1900s till 2000.
We are going to tag your social media in case, because you said working title, in case the title changes, you let people know.
Yeah, it's the working title.
Okay.
Yeah.
You let people know in case that changes, because I think you do have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to share with us, and I'll be the first person to support you. Thank you so once again. Everybody back at home, thank you so much for supporting the Conversation Capital. It is all love. Continue to like, share, comment. Let us know what you think. Could you follow what he was saying? Did you also need to rewind? Like, I'm going to need to rewind and follow up, or are you saying 100%? I am for this revolution that you speak of, a different one that needs to take place. For now, though, goodbye and God bless.